Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 232 of the Prancing Pony Podcast, where the air is harsh and filled with a bitter reek.
And that's just our recording booths. But folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Shawn Marchese, the Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the Man of the West, whose veils have become thin and frail indeed, Alan Sisto.
Guess I need to order some new ones to keep warding off the eye. Folks, today we're going to complete our journey across the Marshes as we finish Book 4, Chapter 2 of The Lord of the Rings. Tonight, Frodo and Sam encounter a truly desolate landscape, and Gollum has a few words with Sméagol.
And I'm guessing at least a few of those words are precious.
At least a few, yeah. Maybe a dozen or two. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and maybe a couple of Gollums in there.
I'm sure.
Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, we are reading and talking our way through Tolkien's stories of Middle-earth, a few pages at a time.
We dive into the details, point out connections to other writings, talk about our favorite themes.
But we also make sure we have a lot of fun along the way. So we're glad you've joined us.
And we know you'll be glad you joined as well. But before we get into the chapter, it's time for a segment that I always enjoy, Meanwhile Elsewhere in Middle-earth.
This is a fun one. It's a good opportunity to explore some of that interlacing that Tolkien is so good at.
It's really common in these two books, right? Book 3,
it really
book 4,
is, yeah. Mm-hmm. It will be for the next season and a half, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so when dawn arrives a few minutes into tonight's reading, it's going to be the morning of March 2nd. And it's the same sun that Gandalf and Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli see in this passage from Book 3. Slowly in the east, the dark faded to a cold gray. Red shafts of light leapt above the black walls of the Aemon Muil, far away upon their left. Dawn came clear and bright. A wind swept across their path, rushing through the bent grasses. Suddenly, Shadowfax stood still and neighed. Gandalf pointed ahead. "Look," he cried, and they lifted their tired eyes. Before them stood the mountains of the south, white-tipped and streaked with black. The grasslands rolled against the hills that clustered at their feet, and flowed up into many valleys still dim and dark, untouched by the light of dawn, winding their way into the heart of the great mountains.
And Legolas, with his powerful eyesight, tells them about the walled village and the great hall that he sees. Now, Gandalf tells them that the town is Edoras, the hall is Meduseld, and that Theoden, son of Thengel, king of the Mark of Rohan, lives there. But all is not well with the king. After being stopped at the gates, they are led to the hall where we meet the amazing Hama. Now, I wish we had time to revisit that whole thing, but please listen to episode 204 to refresh your memory. I have to say that chapter, probably my favorite chapter last season, Shawn, and Hama was a big reason why.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Hama is amazing, and all of that stuff as they're riding into Meduseld is just fantastic.
Yeah.
But we can't compress 3 episodes into a single intro segment, so we're going to have to move on.
We can barely compress 3 intro segments into a single episode.
Seriously. So our 4 travelers make it into the hall. The quick version, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then we read, at the far end of the house, beyond the hearth and facing north towards the doors, was a dais with 3 steps, and in the middle of the dais was a great gilded chair. Upon it sat a man so bent with age that he seemed almost a dwarf. But his white hair was long and thick, and fell in great braids from beneath a thin golden circlet set upon his brow. In the center upon his forehead shone a single white diamond. His beard was laid like snow upon his knees, but his eyes still burned with a bright light, glinting as he gazed at the strangers. Behind his chair stood a woman clad in white. At his feet upon the steps sat a wizened figure of a man, with a pale wise face and heavy-lidded eyes.
Ah, the heavy-lidded eyes of one Grima Wormtongue. Now, he's influenced Theoden greatly, and really he's the reason why the king is not exactly welcoming to Gandalf and company here.
Yeah.
He even tells Gandalf, I didn't mourn when I'd found out you died. So,
right.
Not exactly happy to see him. But Gandalf is not done. Now, Theoden, son of Thengel, will you hearken to me, said Gandalf. Do you ask for help? He lifted his staff and pointed to a high window. There, the darkness seemed to clear, and through the opening could be seen, high and far, a patch of shining sky. Not all is dark. Take courage, Lord of the Mark, for better help you will not find. No counsel have I to give to those that despair, yet counsel I could give, and words I could speak to you. Will you hear them? They are not for all ears. I bid you come out before your doors and look abroad. Too long have you sat in shadows and trusted to twisted tales and crooked promptings. Slowly Theoden left his chair. A faint light grew in the hall again. The woman hastened to the king's side, taking his arm, and with faltering steps the old man came down from the dais and paced softly through the hall. Wormtongue remained lying on the floor. They came to the doors, and Gandalf knocked. "Open!" he cried. "The Lord of the Mark comes forth."
I'm sorry, I'm still
Shawn,
laughing at that.
That's you.
I'm still laughing at the fact that I come forth on a two-man podcast.
I know. That's all I can think of now. It's like the quick duck saved him, you know?
Right, yeah.
There's some lines that I've destroyed forever. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm sorry that joke came to my head because this is such a great moment in the book.
It?
I mean,
I know.
I know it's not as cinematic as the exorcism in the Jackson films, but
well, no.
Which is a super cool scene, don't get me wrong.
It is, yeah.
But the scene here in the book is so very powerful. I mean, we see Theoden himself taking the steps that he needs to take to begin his own healing. You know, he's encouraged by Gandalf, but it's not Gandalf doing it against his will. He's not drawing something out of him. He's encouraging him. He's kindling him.
That's right.
And then once they're outside, Theoden looks over his realm and we read, "It is not so dark here," said Theoden. "No," said Gandalf, "nor does age lie so heavily on your shoulders as some would have you think. Cast aside your prop." From the king's hand, the black staff fell clattering on the stones. He drew himself up, slowly, as a man that is stiff from long bending over some dull toil. Now tall and straight he stood, and his eyes were blue as he looked into the opening sky. "Dark have been my dreams of late," he said, "but I feel as one new awakened. I would now that you had come before, Gandalf, for I fear that already you have come too late, only to see the last days of my house. Not long now shall stand the high hall which Brego, son of Eol, built. Fire shall devour the high seat. What is to be done?"
What is to be done, indeed. Ready for action, ready to do what must be done, even in the face of the destruction of his house and his line. Very Germanic there, very Beowulfian.
Mm-hmm.
This healing of Theoden and the role he played in his own healing in particular really was one of the highlights for last season.
Oh, yeah. As we've delved deeply into the book, I think it's one of my favorite things about the book and Tolkien's version of this scene as opposed to the movie. There's another thing that I don't remember commenting on before, and maybe I did, or maybe you did, honestly. Who can remember?
Maybe I did.
That was like a year ago. But I'm noticing now this language in which Theoden is described as having been long bending over some dull toil.
Yeah.
I don't think this is an accidental simile. I think Tolkien wants us to see that Theoden's existence for some time now, under the influence of Grima, has been a toil. It's just been a chore.
Yeah, it has.
To go on living, to go on being king. And Gandalf has freed him from that. And I really like that. I think it's a bit of escape.
You're right. I mean, we definitely see recovery here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right.
Sure.
We also see some escape.
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
Amazing. Good insight. I don't think we talked about that, no.
Yeah, I don't think we did, because this is the first time I can remember thinking of that. I don't remember noticing this before. So just goes to show you how much new you can find in the text every time you go back and reread
every single
it. It's
time.
amazing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, that was a fantastic Meanwhile segment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we begin our discussion, we have a couple of clarifications to a recent episode that were sent in by our old friend Tom H. in New York. Tom reached out to us a couple of days ago after listening to episode 227, in which we discussed not only the question of Frodo's pity for Gollum, but also in the Barliman's Bag segment, we discussed whether Sméagol was predisposed to murder before the ring ever crossed his path.
That's right. Now, Tom pointed out, in regards to the question of whether Sméagol had a seed of evil in him before he saw the ring, Tolkien himself has something to say on this topic in letter number 181. I think we touched on this in a P5, but it's really important to bring it out here more, along with what Tom had to say about it. And this letter 181 is a 1956 draft of a letter composed to Michael Straight, editor of New Republic. The domination of the ring was much too strong for the mean soul of Sméagol. Now, he doesn't mean mean like cruel. That's mean in the sense of base or lacking dignity. Tolkien goes on to say, but he would have never had to endure it if he had not become a mean sort of thief before it crossed his path. Need it ever have crossed his path? Need anything dangerous ever cross any of our paths? A kind of answer could be found in trying to imagine Gollum overcoming temptation. The story would have been quite different. By temporizing, not fixing the still, not wholly corrupt Sméagol will towards good in the debate in the slag hole, he weakened himself for the final chance when dawning love of Frodo was too easily withered by the jealousy of Sam before Shelob's lair. After that, he was lost.
That is amazing insight.
Isn't it?
Really wish we had picked up on that for the episode.
I know, I do too.
There's so much stuff out there, sometimes we can't capture it all.
No, it's true.
Well, then, in regards to that discussion about pity, Tom advised us to take another look at the statute of Finwë and Miriel. Now, for those who don't remember Season 1 or who didn't listen to Season 1, that's the bit in Morgoth's Ring, which recounts the debate of the Valar. And this was all about what to do after Miriel had died, giving birth to Feanor, whether they were going to allow Finwë to remarry, who was responsible for this happening, how this was all just a result of Arda Mard. It was a very deep, dense bit of text, very philosophical, and we read a little bit of it back in Season 1. Well, Tom reminded us that there's some great stuff in that debate about pity and justice, and of course, he's absolutely right. There's two passages in particular that we want to share here.
Yeah.
And the first happens when the Valar are discussing whether Miriel's death and all the sorrow that transpired after it was the fault of Finwë, or was it the fault of Miriel, or was it Melkor's fault because we're living in Arda Mard?
Right.
And we get this really, really great insight from Nienna, because of course it's Nienna, right?
Of course it is, right.
In the use of justice there must be pity, which is the consideration of the singleness of each that cometh under justice. Which of you, Valar, in your wisdom, will blame these children, Finwë and Miriel? For the children are both strong and without might. Mandos you hold to be the strongest of all that are in Arda, being the least moved, and therefore you have dared to commit even the Marer himself, and that's Melkor, of course, to his keeping. Yet I say to you that each Fea of the children is as strong as he, for it hath the strength of its singleness impregnable, which cometh to it from Eru, as to us. In its nakedness it is obdurate beyond all power that ye have to move it, if it will not. Yet the children are not mighty. In life they are little, and can effect little, and they are young, and they know time only.
But then later she says, Let Miriel have the joy of her body, and of the use of its skills in which she delighted, and dwell not forever, remembering only her brief life before, and its ending in weariness. Can she not be removed from the halls of waiting, and taken into the service of Vaire? If she cometh never thence, nor seeketh to walk among the living, why shouldst thou hold the doom set at naught, or fear for griefs that might arise? Pity must have a part in justice. Pity must have a part in justice. That ties right back to Gandalf's words to Frodo, and our second mailbag question as well.
It certainly does. And once again, I wish we'd thought of it for the episode.
Boy, so do I. Pity must have a part in justice. That is brilliant stuff right there.
That is brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. But thank you, Tom, for catching it, for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
glad we were able to bring it into the discussion a few weeks late.
Yeah.
Now, I know we're about to get back into the text now, but before we do, Alan, I think you said you had something else you wanted to talk about, right?
I did. There's just something that I need to mention. A few episodes ago, back in 228, when we were talking also about Gollum, whether he might actually have broken into the woodmen's homes and killed some of their children, I referenced an episode of Seinfeld and or a dozen other pop culture memes when I asked mockingly, Dingo got your baby. Now, at the time, I have to tell you folks, I genuinely did not know that there had been a real-life event in Australia in 1980 involving a baby girl and her parents. The little girl was killed, and the mother was charged with her murder, wrongly imprisoned, only to be vindicated years later. Now, we had a few folks reach out to us shortly after the episode released, and we immediately removed that content. And folks, I just have to tell you, I'm truly sorry. I genuinely had no idea, and neither did Shawn.
No, I didn't. And I guess that's the danger of using some of the older pop culture references that we tend to use on the show. Honestly, I didn't even really know the Seinfeld reference. I just thought you were...
I don't even know if I remembered it as particularly a Seinfeld reference, because I think it's also been on like Simpsons and I don't know, dozens of others. I just had no idea that it was all based on a real life story, and it's so tragic. So I definitely didn't want to, create laughs on somebody else's tragedy. That's not, That's not what we do.
Yeah, it is. And if I had known about that, I would have stopped you and said something, but I didn't. So folks, I'm sorry for my part in that as well. But thank you for letting us know. As Alan said, we've removed that content, and folks who download the episode again will hear a version of that discussion without
minus
that reference.
That comment.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you all. But now I think we can finally get back into the text, and we're going to see Gollum acting like a guy whose friend has 2 tickets to a Rolling Stones concert, and he's trying to get the second one. It's like, how can I be the better friend?
Right. That's absolutely right. He is going to be just all over Frodo. What can I do for you? Can I bring you some dinner? Can I make you a sandwich? Yeah.
Right.
All right.
So, Alan, why don't you get us started?
I will indeed. From that time on, Sam thought that he sensed a change in Gollum again. He was more fawning and would be friendly, but Sam surprised some strange looks in his eyes at times, especially towards Frodo, and he went back more and more into his old manner of speaking. And Sam had another growing anxiety. Frodo seemed to be weary to the point of exhaustion. He said nothing. Indeed, he hardly spoke at all, and he did not complain, but he walked like one who carries a load, the weight of which is ever increasing, and he dragged along slower and slower, so that Sam had often to beg Gollum to wait and not to leave their master behind. In fact, with every step towards the gates of Mordor, Frodo felt the ring on its chain about his neck grow more burdensome. He was now beginning to feel it as an actual weight dragging him earthwards. But far more he was troubled by the eye. So he called it to himself. It was that, more than the drag of the ring, that made him cower and stoop as he walked. The eye, that horrible growing sense of a hostile will that strove with great power to pierce all shadows of cloud and earth and flesh, and to see you, to pin you under its deadly gaze, naked, immovable. So thin, so frail and thin the veils were become that still warded it off. Frodo knew just where the present habitation and heart of that will now was, as certainly as a man can tell the direction of the sun with his eyes shut. He was facing it, and its potency beat upon his brow.
Insert social media joke here.
Yeah, seriously.
All right. Well.
Wow. Oh, goodness. Yeah.
I feel like that sometimes, really.
I know. The eye.
I feel like I'm pinned under a deadly gaze.
Seriously.
Naked, immovable.
Piercing all shadows of cloud and earth.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. So, all right. Well, all right. So we start this passage in Sam's perspective, and he's sensing a change in Gollum since the events of the last episode, but it's not a good one, is it?
No, he's more obsequious. He's feigning friendship. But Sam notices these strange looks towards Frodo, and more important than that, he notices that he's slipping back into his old way of talking.
Yeah, he does. Now, you said he noticed some strange looks. I want to note that the text uses the word surprised.
Which is an interesting line. Sam surprised some strange looks in his eyes. Wait a minute. That's not how we normally use that word, is it? Yeah.
Right. That is actually an older usage of the word surprise. It means to detect suddenly. It's not much older than the meaning we commonly use today. When a person is surprised, a person is feeling something unexpected.
Right.
This meaning to detect suddenly or to come upon someone suddenly, that's a little bit older, about 60 years older, according to the OED.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't hear it much anymore, but I'm not surprised to see Tolkien use it.
Oh, wow. You did. Yeah.
Sorry, that was terrible, but the point is sincere.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Well, thanks for explaining that. Appreciate a little bit of word nerdery there. But Sam doesn't just notice a change in Gollum. He notices a change in Frodo, doesn't he?
Oh, he does. I mean, Frodo is weary to the point of exhaustion.
Oh, yeah.
And Sam notices that Frodo isn't complaining. He's really hardly speaking much at all. Mm-hmm. But he's carrying a load, or walking like someone who's carrying a load.
Right.
And he's going slow. So slow that Sam actually has to ask Gollum to hold on, wait for him.
Right. Wait up, man. So then we shift from Sam's perspective now to Frodo's perspective, and we see that Sam is right. He really is carrying a burden. As they're walking towards Mordor, this burden of the ring is literally growing with every step, and now it feels like a weight pulling him down, like he's wearing a kettlebell or something. I mean, it's pulling him down to the ground. It's a physical drag on his body more than just his soul now. Yeah.
Yeah. But as much as that's burdening him physically, more than the burden of the ring, we see what's troubling Frodo is actually the eye.
Yeah, the eye. I wonder if we need to have a little bit of a theme for the next few chapters called the eye at work. We talk about the ring at work.
I don't know, maybe. We might, let's see how it goes. Yeah, we might see more of the eye. Yeah, for sure.
Because we will see some of that for sure.
Definitely later on, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But this is interesting. We're told by the text that this is Frodo's own name for it.
That's right.
Now, the first time that we saw it called the Eye was actually in the chapter The Mirror of Galadriel back in Book 2. And it's what Frodo saw in Galadriel's mirror. The text says, "Suddenly the mirror went altogether dark as if a hole had opened in the world of sight, and Frodo looked into emptiness. In the black abyss there appeared a single eye that slowly grew, until it filled nearly all the mirror. So terrible was it that Frodo stood rooted, unable to cry out or to withdraw his gaze. The eye was rimmed with fire, but was itself glazed, yellow as a cat's, watchful and intent, and the black slit of its pupil opened on a pit, a window into nothing. Then the eye began to rove, searching this way and that, and Frodo knew with certainty and horror that among the many things that it sought, he himself was one. But he also knew that it could not see him. Not yet. Not unless he willed it. The ring that hung upon its chain about his neck grew heavy, heavier than a great stone, and his head was dragged downwards."
Now, not only was this the first time we saw it called the Eye with a capital E, but in that passage that Shawn just read, we also got a glimpse of the ring being a weight dragging Frodo down, sort of a premonition or a presaging this particular experience.
This moment, yeah, you're right.
Now, after a couple of more references to the eye by Galadriel herself, referencing what Frodo saw in the mirror, we don't see it called that again until Amon Hen. And after that, Gandalf 2.0 refers to it when he says that he was weary after my struggle with the eye of Mordor. And then shortly after that, he talks about how the eye of Barad-dûr will be looking impatiently towards the Wizard's Vale.
Right. And while we got a description of its appearance way back in the Mirror of Galadriel, it's here that we get a sense of the impact that it has on Frodo.
That's right.
A sense of hostile will, this striving to pierce all cover and to pin him under its gaze.
And we do get a sense of that cover being there, but being very, very thin. The veils that were warding off the eye are described as thin and frail. He must feel like he's a moment away from exposure this entire time.
Yeah. And I love this description of how its potency beat upon his brow. You can imagine this as like, when your eyes are closed outside and the sun is bright and you can still feel the sun on your eyelids, right? That's kind of what I'm imagining here.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful image.
Boy, it sure is.
But then after getting Sam's point of view and then Frodo's point of view, we get a glimpse of Gollum's point of view. Not much.
That's right.
It's only a probably. We don't really get inside Gollum's head. The narrator's only speculating here. And so it's not quite like what we get with Sam and Frodo, but we do get some interesting conjecture here, don't we?
We do. And while we don't get a conclusion, in fact, Sam and Frodo don't even guess, we do know that there are at least three things weighing on Gollum: the pressure of the eye, the lust of the ring, and his promise.
Right. And Frodo wasn't even thinking about it, which leaves us to infer that Sam is, at least in part, giving some thought to what Gollum is thinking and feeling for us to get it here. But he's not thinking about it much because really his mind is on Frodo.
No, of course. And his mind is on Frodo so much that he doesn't even notice the dark cloud descending on his own heart.
Yeah.
And we're going to see some results of that later, of course. He switches position with Frodo in the line so that he can support him from behind, so he can kind of pick him up when he stumbles. And very Sam-like, encourage him with clumsy words. I love that.
Yeah. DM, take note of the change in marching order.
That's
and
right.
Also the clumsy words.
Yes, please. What would that be then? Charm?
I don't know. He failed one of his charisma rolls. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he's definitely failing his charisma rolls. Sam.
Persuasion or something.
Yeah. And intimidation is virtually nil. I think he has like a -3.
I imagine so, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe later on when he storms the Tower of Cirith-Ungol, he'll get some intimidation. Pluses.
That's thanks to the shadow. That's like
That's
a serious modifier.
Yeah,
to roll.
it's advantage.
I am going to have you read the next passage here when day comes here at the end of the Marshes.
When day came at last, the hobbits were surprised to see how much closer the ominous mountains had already drawn. The air was now clearer and colder, and though still far off, the walls of Mordor were no longer a cloudy menace on the edge of sight, but as grim black towers they frowned across a dismal waste. The marshes were at an end, dying away into dead peats and wide flats of dry, cracked mud. The land ahead rose in long, shallow slopes, barren and pitiless, towards the desert that lay at Sauron's gate. While the grey light lasted, they cowered under a black stone like worms, shrinking, lest the winged terror should pass and spy them with its cruel eyes. The remainder of that journey was a shadow of growing fear in which memory could find nothing to rest upon. For 2 more nights they struggled on through the weary, pathless land. The air, as it seemed to them, grew harsh, and filled with a bitter reek that caught their breath and parched their mouths.
Wow. This is not a pleasant place.
Not at all, no.
No. Folks, now that the day has come, this is just a reminder that it is March 2nd. And like we talked about earlier, on this day, Gandalf heals Theoden, and the Rohirrim would later ride towards Saruman. But it's also the date of the Second Battle of the Fords of Isen, and it's the date that Entmoot will end later this afternoon.
Mm-hmm. And as the day dawns, the hobbits are surprised, in the modern sense,
Yes.
to see how close they are now to the mountains.
That's right.
The walls of Mordor, as they're called here in the text, now actually look very close to them.
Indeed. Hammond and Skull point out that Frodo and Sam are, quote, looking towards the Morannon at the northwest corner of Mordor between the Ephel-Duath, marking the western border of Mordor, and the Ered Lithwi in the north.
And as you said, this is just an ugly, ugly place. We see this dismal waste as the marshes turn into dead peats, then cracked mud, then barren slopes towards desert.
So during the day, they are fearing the winged terror, the flying Nazgul. But I have to ask, couldn't the Nazgul see them just as clearly at night, given the ring, given that Frodo has the ring with him?
Maybe. I mean, remember that they can't see the regular world, right?
That's true. They had to rely on their horses, so I guess they're relying on the flying steeds too, yeah.
Right. So you would think they should be able to sense the ring and maybe, see Frodo, air quotes, sense Frodo in some way. Then again, maybe they're reliant on the eyes of their winged terrors, just as they're reliant on the eyes of their horses. I don't know.
That could be. But either way, it's a good idea to hide from them no matter what time of day it happens to be, I suppose.
Yeah, don't take any chances.
Day or night.
Don't assume that their visibility is going to work, their lack of visibility is going to work in your favor.
Probably not.
And then we see that the rest of their journey, which is 2 more nights through this, is filled with just increasing fear.
Yeah.
Understandably so. And we're talking about the nights of March 2nd to 3rd and March 3rd to 4th. Mm-hmm. So there's actually a lot happening right now if we look across the fence to what's happening elsewhere.
That's right. The night of March 2nd is when the Ents reach Isengard. They destroy it on March 3rd. That's also the day when Theoden gets to Helm's Deep and the Battle of the Hornburg starts. So there's a lot happening, like you said.
Yeah, there is. And for poor Frodo and Sam and Gollum, the environment here is just becoming more hostile. It's just become this harsh, reeking air that catches their breath and parches their mouths. It's just, you're in this place where people shouldn't be,
Oh, no.
And Garth, in that essay that we referenced a few times last episode, As Under a Green Sea, he compares the way the hobbits in this passage find the air harsh and filled with a bitter reek that caught their breath and parched their mouths with the words of a fellow World War I officer. The smell of burnt and poisoned mud was with us for months on end.
Well, it's not the last time that we're going to look at World War I influences here for Tolkien.
No, for sure. I mean, we said this all the way back in, was it episode 4? Was the one you did solo all the way back in the beginning of the show?
I think so.
All the references to Tolkien's war experience that come in this book, and primarily it's this approach to Mordor.
That's right. It really is, as we'll find out.
Yeah.
For now, though, we want to tell you a little bit about mythology candles. From immersive candles designed for Tolkien lovers to seasonal collections inspired by fantasy and folklore, every one of mythology candles, and that's mythology spelt with an I-E instead of a Y at the end, every one of their scents is designed to be lit when reading a book, watching a fantasy movie, or even listening to a podcast like this one.
Absolutely. If you ever felt like making your home smell like a location or even a character from Middle-earth, Mythology Candles' tale-inspired collection is going to do just that. They've got one scent called the Ranger, which smells like trampled leaves and musky leather. And then there's the herbal scent of King of the Wood Elves. Or maybe the cherry tobacco of Wizard's Pipeweed is more the mood you're in.
I could get into that. That sounds good. But don't miss out on Mythology Candle's brand new limited edition winter collection. Ancient Yule Festival is inspired by the winter solstice celebrations in Viking Age Scandinavia, and it features 6 new scents. One of them is Longhouse Hearth, which smells like sitting by a log fire. And then there's the Yule Tree, which embodies the scent of walking through a moss-covered pine forest.
That is the one that I actually really want to try from the new collection.
Doesn't that sound
That
good?
one just sounds fantastic. But folks, all Mythology Candles are handmade in the USA with eco-friendly coconut wax, crackling wooden wicks, and pure natural fragrances. And they have an exclusive discount code for Prancing Pony Podcast listeners to get 10% off their purchase. All you have to do is type in Gimli10, all one word, at checkout. That's Gimli10.
So if you feel like being whisked away to Hobbiton or to ancient Scandinavia, check out Mythology Candles, spelled with an I-E instead of the Y.com, or find them on social media at Mythology Candles. And hurry, Christmas is less than 2 weeks away. Folks, Bombas' mission is simple. Make the most comfortable clothes ever and match every item sold with an equal item donated. So this holiday, when you gift Bombas to someone on your list, you're also giving them to someone in need. It's a give-give.
And they really are comfy. Everything Bombas makes is soft, seamless, tagless, and perfectly cozy.
Now, Bombas uses super soft materials like merino wool, Pima cotton, and even cashmere, so they're also perfect for warm winter layers.
Well, speaking of winter layers, folks, you should see the cool holiday styles they have for when you're feeling festive this season. But if you're focused on performance, well, they've got that too, with socks for just about every sport.
That's right. And their t-shirts are great. Soft fabrics and the perfect weight, so they hang just right. Their underwear, I gotta say, has a barely there feel that honestly makes you forget they're even there in a good way.
And Bombas are definitely the coziest gift for everyone on your list. And thanks to their festive gift boxes, you don't even have to wrap them. Just do the giving.
Mm-hmm. Now, Bombas are made to be the perfect gift and made to give back to those in need. So, happy giving.
Go to bombas.com/PPP and get 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/PPP for 20% off. Bombas.com/PPP.
Well, before we get back to the discussion, we want to make sure you know that when you finish listening to this episode, well, the talk continues all night long at the Prancing Pony Podcast.
That's right. Our amazing listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces, from our common room on Facebook to our Reddit community, Twitter, and more.
On Facebook, just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast and be sure to follow the page and join the group in order to get into some really great discussions.
And you can find us on Reddit at r/PrancingPonyPod, and we're also at Prancing Pony Pod on Twitter and Instagram. All right, well, let's go ahead and get back into the text. And Alan, you're going to pick up right where I left off.
I am indeed. And I got to tell you, if there's ever been an episode that was really hard to, write some of those transition gags and things like that for, it's this one, because there's nothing funny. This chapter is miserable. This whole section is just, there's nothing in this other than sheer torture. This is a terrible place. There's no humor here. So I'm going to go ahead and read, but
and it almost feels tasteless to try and insert humor.
That's the thing,
doesn't it? I mean, it's like we can make a joke about a lot of different things.
That is true. We can make jokes about nearly anything, but
yeah, this is hard. This is hard to make jokes about.
Yeah, this is really, really deeply unpleasant country. And when you end up recognizing why, it becomes even more important not to make jokes about it, because we're talking about very direct personal experience.
Yeah.
At last, on the 5th morning since they took the road with Gollum, they halted once more. Before them, dark in the dawn, the great mountains reached up to roofs of smoke and cloud. Out from their feet were flung huge buttresses and broken hills that were now, at the nearest, scarce a dozen miles away. Frodo looked round in horror. Dreadful as the dead marshes had been, and the arid moors of the no-man lands, more loathsome far was the country that the crawling day now slowly unveiled to his shrinking eyes. Even to the mere of dead faces, some haggard phantom of green spring would come. But here, neither spring nor summer would ever come again. Here, nothing lived, not even the leprous growths that feed on rottenness. The gasping pools were choked with ash and crawling muds, sickly white and gray, as if the mountains had vomited the filth of their entrails upon the lands about. High mounds of crushed and powdered rock, great cones of earth, fire-blasted and poison-stained, stood like an obscene graveyard in endless rows, slowly revealed in the reluctant light. They had come to the desolation that lay before Mordor, the lasting monument to the dark labor of its slaves that should endure when all their purposes were made void, a land defiled, diseased beyond all healing, unless the great sea should enter in and wash it with oblivion. "I feel sick," said Sam. Frodo did not speak. For a while they stood there, like men on the edge of a sleep where nightmare lurks, holding it off, though they know that they can only come to morning through the shadows. The light broadened and hardened. The gasping pits and poisonous mounds grew hideously clear. The sun was up, walking among clouds and long flags of smoke, but even the sunlight was defiled. The hobbits had no welcome for that light. Unfriendly, it seemed, revealing them in their helplessness, little squeaking ghosts that wandered among the ash heaps of the Dark Lord.
Man.
Wow.
Man. I mean, it's such powerful language.
It is. Yeah.
It's, as you said, it's just miserable. It's a brutal place.
It is a truly barren place in a way that we almost can't comprehend.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to this in a moment, but, last episode we talked about how the dead marshes are just completely dead.
Right.
No, this is completely dead.
Yeah. There, they still had snakes and worms and things under the rocks, and there was still green stuff around the...
Yeah. We saw like the dead carcasses of reeds and things like that, but I mean, this is dead beyond dead. I mean, this is... Oh. All right. Well, let's go back to the beginning of that passage. So we see that it's the fifth morning since they took up with Gollum. Now, remember that they met him on the night of February 29th. So their first morning with him would have been February 30th.
And that would make this March 4th. So what's going on the other side of the world, so to speak, the arrival of Erkenbrand and Gandalf and the trees. Yeah.
Right. And so Sam and Frodo and Gollum, they stop. They look at the mountains that reach up to smoke and low clouds. And the foothills, they're described as huge buttresses that were no more than 12 miles away.
That is too close for comfort, for sure. And that's when we get to Frodo's perspective. And as bad as the dead marshes were, we're told, and as bad as the no-man lands between there and here, and they were there for a couple of days, this is far, far worse. And speaking of the no-man lands, since neither of us have a first edition of The Lord of the Rings, we rely on Hammond and Skull, as well as the History of Middle-earth, to let us know when there are notable changes. And here was one of them. No-man lands was originally spelled no men's land here, but it was changed to match the mention of these same lands in the chapter Farewell to Lorien, when Celeborn gives his little geography lesson, and he says, on the further side are the bleak hills of the Eamon Muil. The wind blows from the east there, for they look out over the dead marshes and the no-man lands to Cirith Gorgor and the black gates of Mordor.
That's right. And I remember us talking about it then when we read it in book 2. And man, if No Man Lands wasn't a clear enough reference to Tolkien's war experience. No Man's Land
a little on the nose, isn't it?
Right on the nose.
Yeah.
And we see that old name in Scheme, which tells us March 2nd at dawn, Frodo, Sam, and Gollum reach end of marshes and hide under a stone. At night, begin journey in moors of No Man's Land. March 3rd, journey in No Man's Land continues. March 4, reach Slag Mounds and edge of desolation of Morannon. Stay in a hole all day.
Notably not a hobbit hole.
No, it does not mean comfort when he says stay in a hole all day.
Definitely not.
Now, John Garth, going back to that essay As Under a Green Sea, points out that this land was called Uvanwaith in Elvish in an early draft, which looks like it's probably a pretty direct translation of No Man's Land.
Yeah. So we read, though, that this is worse. How is this worse? As we mentioned before, Frodo observes at least some life will come back to the marshes. We were told that basically winter still ruled there. This is early March, so that's not a surprise. But when the spring comes and the summer comes, some life will be there, even if it's just, as we read, a haggard phantom. But here, nothing lived at all.
No.
No.
Dead beyond dead. I mean,
That's right.
There are gasping pools choked with ash and muds, mounds of crushed rock.
That's right. And then these cones. You can imagine these. This is a vivid illustration. The cones of fire-blasted earth. They're also poison-stained, and he describes them like an obscene graveyard.
Yeah.
That's vivid.
It really is. And not only is it likened to a graveyard, but, we talk occasionally about how the landscape can be personified.
Yeah.
The land almost becomes a character, and it is a little bit personified here.
A little
and
bit.
Its personality is not friendly. I mean, you
No.
get words like gasping and choked. It's just, again,
leprous. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just this dead land. And these words that we get to describe it are these words of death and corruption.
They are.
Gasping and choked and leprous.
Of emptiness.
Yeah. It's horrific. And yet this scene, we need to remember, this scene was not pure fantasy for Tolkien.
No, it was not. In the worlds of J.R.R. Tolkien, John Garth points out that the white and gray muds, quote, are the color of the chalky Somme mud, and quotes Tolkien saying, I remember miles and miles of seething, tortured earth, perhaps best described in the chapter about the approaches to Mordor. It was a searing experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Garth actually goes on to note Frodo's comment about the obscene graveyard you talked about. He says that this comparison to endless lines of gravestones suggests a ghastly parody of the overwhelmingly vast Commonwealth war cemeteries in France or Belgium.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. This really is a land defiled beyond all healing. We think about, okay, there's no life here, but maybe life will come back. No, the text makes it clear that that's never going to happen. This is past the point of healing. Galadriel could come with her ring and nothing would still grow here. You'd have to literally wash it with oblivion. Start all over.
And I love that passage. When we were reading this for the episode, I just paused and I went back and reread it a bunch of times because it's such a fantastic passage. I mean, like you said, this is a land defiled beyond all healing. There's no hope for this place. This place is dead.
Yeah.
There's nothing that can be done unless, and then he gives an option.
That's right.
Unless the great sea should enter in and wash it with oblivion. And let's remember, folks, it's not going to happen here, but this is the kind of thing that happens in Tolkien's world.
Right.
We see the sea enter in and bury Beleriand,
wash it all away,
waves,
right?
Or bury Numenor beneath the waves. The sea flooding a land that is gone wrong and that needs to be erased. That is something that happens in Tolkien's world, and it's usually, I think it's always a sign of divine intervention. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really cool that Tolkien brings it up here, even though that's not what's going to happen here.
No.
But it does remind us that there is some hope beyond the hopelessness, isn't there?
That's correct. You mentioned the great sea and Beleriand, and I cannot help but think of the first age predecessor to this place, the Anfauglith.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
I mean, that really, that same sort of barren desert devoid of life. I think it was in a Garth essay. I don't remember putting it in our notes because I think it was just going too far afield. But he pointed out that just as the Anfauglith is sort of the predecessor to this, the Hill of the Slain was the predecessor of the Mirror of Dead Faces.
Oh, right. I do kind of remember that from somewhere, yeah.
There is something to be said about that, isn't there? And in both cases in Beleriand, they were wiped clean.
Yeah.
And, Arda will be remade. So, we say it's not going to happen, and it isn't going to happen until the end of the world.
It's not going to happen in this book, right?
Right. Yeah. But one day it will.
And,
and one day Arda will be remade, and this place will have life again. But
I think
that's not going to happen in this age.
Right. But I think that's wonderful because it just reminds us that as hopeless as it is, that there is no hope for this place to be restored. No. But there is. There actually is.
That's a very good point.
And again, it's that hope beyond hope.
Right. Definitely beyond hope for sure.
And of course, that hope beyond hope isn't going to help much right now.
No,
I mean,
no, it's not going to help Sam or Frodo, is it?
No. Sam says he feels sick.
Oh,
Frodo can't even talk.
no. And I mentioned the similarity between Anfalglith in this, but John Garth points out the similarity between this scene and one that Bilbo encountered at the desolation of Smaug, a land that was once green, but we read, now with neither bush nor tree and only broken and blackened stumps to speak of one's long vanished. So similarly, barren place, destroyed by evil, no life. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's in that sort of, I wouldn't say lighter language of The Hobbit, but it is, it's not quite as intense as it is
No,
here.
it's not. You're right. It's not described like the blasted, artillery blasted lands of the front of World War I, like these are.
Right.
Yeah.
But now Frodo and Sam are standing there, and the narrator tells us it's like they're holding off a nightmare.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
They just don't want to go any further, even though they know that's the only way they're going to get through
right.
this.
Yeah. And they have to get through it, right?
They have to get through it. And I really like that. This is one of my favorite sentences here. They know that they can only come to morning through the shadows. That is one of my favorite bits in this whole book.
Isn't that a great line?
It is, yeah. But the light comes stronger now, and it's showing the pits and
it's a harder light.
Clarity.
You can almost imagine this. It's a really unpleasant sun.
Yeah.
Pale, probably. Not golden or warm, but just bright and harsh with really
just showing them the horror of the place they're in. Yeah.
Contrasty, hard-edged shadows and nothing pleasant about it.
Yeah.
Goodness. In fact, the sunlight we read was defiled, and the hobbits did not welcome it like they had before. And that's because they know this reveals them, right? It reveals them in their helplessness. Little squeaking ghosts. What a description that is, huh?
Very much so. Wow. Little squeaking ghosts. Is this a reference to the, inevitable death, or at least we think inevitable death, or is it?
I don't know. That's a good point.
I don't know if it's that. I said that, but now that I said it, I don't know that that's it, actually.
I don't think so. I think just harmless little things that
little ephemeral things that have no impact on the world around them. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I got one more reference from that As Under a Green Sea. So hat tip to John Garth again. He points out that this shift from the dead marshes to the desert in front of the Black Gate suggests that Tolkien, quote, wanted to find room in his mythology for both faces of the Somme, the blasted, dry wasteland of the summer months when he had first arrived, and the mire of the winter months that followed.
Wow.
And we see both very, very clearly in these two places.
Yeah.
Kind of want to spend a little bit of time. I know this isn't pleasant, but maybe just talking about the sheer terror of this land, right? The emptiness, the death, the signs of destruction. I think we read something about the poison-stained earth. I think that's another World War I reference, maybe to the gas that was being used.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking back to the conversation we had with our guest in our last episode with Andrew.
Oh, yeah.
Kingly Gift segment. Mm-hmm. And, he talked about the fact that Tolkien didn't really talk about his war experience openly. This was where he put his feelings about it. I have to imagine. I mean, I can't get in Tolkien's head and know that this is exactly how he felt about it, but this seems to be the place where he's dealing with his war experience. And
yeah, it does.
And it's horrible. I mean, it sounds like trite to say it. I can't think of an adjective that fits just how
the thing.
horrific this place is.
Especially because you and I don't have an experience to compare it to.
Right.
And
yeah,
I don't know that very many people alive would. I think modern war has its own different terrors, its own realities and evils that are maybe the same quantitatively, but are different qualitatively.
I think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, I know that people who experience combat today, they have horrific experiences. But
of course, we talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, and we see it with the men of Gondor who can't keep going forward.
Right.
And Aragorn lets them go. But
I think you're right. Qualitatively, it's different. And
it is.
And I think when you remember just how the Great War struck people.
Yeah.
In the 1910s.
Yeah, the teens, right?
Teens? Mm-hmm. Teens? How do you say that? 19-teens.
Yeah, the second decade of the
that's the
20th century.
And you read things about, how just people thought something like this could never happen, and here
Right.
it has happened, and it's worse than any other war before it, and people just never knew that this kind of destruction
No.
could be executed in such a short amount of time.
Correct. Yeah.
And I can't imagine going back and seeing it through Tolkien's eyes.
No.
But I guess I can imagine it a little bit because he puts a little bit of it here, and I'm thankful for that because it really, I don't know, I think it's a good reminder of the fact that there are true horrors in this world. It's not really something that's pleasant, but
No.
I think it's good to remember.
I think it's necessary to remember.
Yeah,
I
especially
think
for those of us who don't have to live through it.
exactly. That's exactly right. So that we never have to again would be the
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to experience this sort of sense of hopelessness that Frodo and Sam are seeing here because it gives us, how do I put this? It gives us the context in which to start seeing Frodo's actions in particular as they start moving forward.
Yeah.
This is, one would say this is rock bottom, but it isn't, right? I mean, we
No,
know it's only going to get worse.
It's going to get worse. Yeah.
In so many ways. Yes, there's a reprieve when they run into Faramir and the Rangers in Ithilien, but this is not the hardest it's going to be. And yet Frodo can't even speak.
Right.
This place is so defiled and so dead. And we'll see, I think, echoes of this again when we get to the plains of Gorgoroth. But I think it's important to sort of get our arms around this and not skim over it like we might want to when we're reading. This is stuff we need to absorb. It is heavy.
And I got to tell you, it is heavy. And I got to tell you, it's a good thing that we get the interlude with Faramir and the Rangers. And we get the walk through Ithilien. And we get things like, the king has got a crown again. Because I think we need
those glimpses of hope. Yeah.
We do need glimpses of hope. We're kind of on a bit of an emotional roller coaster with Frodo and Sam through this section. And I think if it was just this for, what is it, 9 chapters in this book, and then, the first 3 chapters of the next book, it would just be
repeated
brutal.
gut punches. Yeah. This is,
we need some hope. We need a break from it. And Tolkien's just masterful in giving us that.
Yeah, absolutely is. Well, I'm going to have you pick up a little bit after this. They're going to hide from the eye now. They're a little too tired to go any further, and I'm going to have you pick up there if you would.
All right. Frodo and Sam crawled after him until they came to a wide, almost circular pit, high-banked upon the west. It was cold and dead, and a foul sump of oily, many-colored ooze lay at its bottom. In this evil hole they cowered, hoping in its shadow to escape the attention of the eye. The day passed slowly. A great thirst troubled them, but they drank only a few drops from their bottles, last filled in the gully, which now, as they looked back in thought, seemed to them a place of peace and beauty. The hobbits took it in turn to watch. At first, tired as they were, neither of them could sleep at all. But as the sun far away was climbing down into slow-moving cloud, Sam dozed. It was Frodo's turn to be on guard. He lay back on the slope of the pit, but that did not ease the sense of burden that was on him. He looked up at the smoke-streaked sky and saw strange phantoms, dark, writhing shapes, and faces out of the past. He lost count of time, hovering between sleep and waking, until forgetfulness came over him.
Well, if we thought that we were done with World War I imagery, we're not.
Nope.
So let's go back to the beginning of that passage. They can't go any further, so they look for a nearby place to rest. And first, in the part you didn't read, it's under a slag mound, which Tolkien had mentioned in Scheme that we read earlier. But that's a no-go thanks to the fumes. They're so bad that even Gollum's the first one to get up and go. And you're pretty sure Gollum's used to really nasty smells.
I'm sure he is, but yeah, he's spluttering and cursing.
Oh, man.
And then they come to a pit with a high bank on the west side, and there's a foul sump in it. Now, a sump is just a pit or a hollow in which liquid collects.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I've only ever heard it in reference to a sump pump, which is a tool to pump water out of like a basement.
Yep.
But it's often used in reference. You might find a sump in a mine or in a basement, but it can also refer to a cesspool.
That's right. Yeah. And in that sump, we get this disgusting, oily, many-colored ooze. Now, here is a thing. I think we might be seeing an echo here of something that we get a very small glimpse of in The War of the Ring for earlier in this chapter. Now, Christopher points us to an outline of the story that his father had written before the chapter had gotten very far. And Tolkien there says, pools where there are faces, some horrible, some fair, but all corrupted. Gollum says it is said that they are memories of those who fell in ages past in the battle before Enendur. Now that's a previous name for the Morannon, the gates of Mordor in the great battle. Tolkien goes on in this outline to say, in the moon, if you looked in some pools, you saw your own face, fouled and corrupt and dead. Describe the pools as they get nearer to Mordor as like green pools and rivers fouled by modern chemical works.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think we're seeing a remnant of that here.
I think so, with this oily, many-colored ooze. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, the first thing I think of when I think of many-colored is
Saruman. Many colors.
And I think
that's industry right there, isn't it?
Right. And I think of the multicolored lights that we saw in the pits of Saruman.
Oh, yeah, the green and the red and the blue.
Yeah.
Because he only likes primary colors, I guess.
Right. Well, and we talked about, like, this sounds like almost like chemical fires or something to us at the time. So, yeah, I think that's a very good catch.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a remnant of that. And it's here, of course, in this charming sump, because at least it's below the level of the horizon.
Charming sump. That might be the first time those two words have ever been put together.
Quite possibly. So it's here that they hide, and they're just trying to avoid the eye.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, they can't really get any shelter here. They're just basically hiding from this pounding attention of the eye. And then the day moves on.
Right.
We're told that they're thirsty, but they're not drinking a lot because, well,
where are they going to get a refill?
They don't want a refill around here. Yeah.
No, they do not. This place is so bad, so desolate, that gully, and you remember we were there and it was not a pleasant place.
Nope.
The gully where they fill their bottles is, in hindsight, a place of peace and beauty.
Yeah. That's powerful. That is a powerful contrast.
That really, really is, isn't it?
Yeah. But eventually Sam does fall asleep, and it's Frodo's turn to take watch.
Right. And then Frodo has what, I don't know, do we want to describe this as a vision or maybe even a hallucination? These strange phantoms, the
could be,
dark riding shapes, faces out of the past?
Yeah, it could be a hallucination. I'll buy that.
Yeah.
Now, John Garth, going back to that essay again, he points out one obvious bit. He says, the dark riding shapes, in terms of the story, are images of the flying ring wraiths, which Frodo has now glimpsed. But he adds this about what Frodo sees between sleep and waking. I suspect Frodo's dreams also go back to memories of trench fever. The situation among shadows and sleeping companions, together with Frodo's state of semi-consciousness, are much the same as World War I poet Siegfried Sassoon describes in his account of his own hospital hallucinations. I wasn't sure whether I was awake or asleep. The ward was half shadow and half sinking firelight, and the beds were quiet with huddled sleepers. Going back to Garth's words, Tolkien and Sassoon tell the same story about memories appearing as hallucination when the mind moves uneasily between wakefulness and sleep. If the mirror of dead faces is a symbolist or mythic representation of death and memory, Frodo's waking hallucination on the Dagorlad is its psychological realist counterpart.
Wow.
So, yeah, these very well could be hallucinations based on Tolkien's own experiences.
That's exactly what I'm thinking here. And yeah, I mean, like Garth says, clearly the dark riding shapes are referring to the Nazgul. The faces out of the past are the elves and men that he, has seen in the mirror. But it's also more than that.
But the fact that they're all coming together, they're all reappearing to him now. That's the hallucination
in
part.
This space between awake and asleep.
Yeah.
Very powerful. Very powerful. Well, we're going to get to a really interesting thing here. We've never tried this before. I'm not sure this is going to work.
I guess there's only one way to find out.
But there's only one way to find out. So we're going to read the next passage, the debate here. But instead of one of us reading it, we're going to both read it. And we're going to skip the non-dialogue bits. So ignore things like said the first thought or came the answer.
Just the dialogue.
Just the dialogue. And we're going to go ahead and get right into the middle of the debate. So go for it.
Sméagol promised. Yes, my precious. We promised to save our precious, not to let him have it. Never. But it's going to him. Yes, nearer every step. What's the Hobbit got to do with it, we wonders? Yes, we wonders. I don't know. I can't help it. Master's got it. Sméagol promised to help the Master. Yes, to help the Master of the precious. But if we was master, then we could help ourselves, yes, and still keep promises.
But Sméagol said he would be very, very good. Nice Hobbit. He took cruel rope off Sméagol's leg. He speaks nicely to me.
Very, very good, eh, my precious? Let's be good. Good as fish, sweet one. But to ourselves. Not hurt the nice Hobbit, of course. No, no.
But the precious holds the promise.
Then take it, and let's hold it ourselves. Then we shall be master. Make the other Hobbit, the nasty, suspicious Hobbit. Make him crawl, yes.
But not the nice Hobbit.
Oh, no, not if it doesn't please us. Still, he's a Baggins, my precious, yes. A Baggins. A Baggins stole it. He found it and he said nothing, nothing. We hate Bagginses.
No, not this Baggins.
Yes, every Baggins. All peoples that keep the precious. We must have it.
But he'll see. He'll know. He'll take it from us.
He sees. He knows. He heard us make silly promises against his orders, yes. Must take it. The wraiths are searching. Must take it.
Not for him.
No, sweet one. See, my precious, if we has it, then we can escape, even from him, eh? Perhaps we grows very strong, stronger than wraiths. Lord Sméagol, Gollum the Great, the Gollum. Eat fish every day, 3 times a day, fresh from the sea. Most precious Gollum. Must have it. We wants it, we wants it, we wants it.
But there's 2 of them. They'll wait too quick and kill us. Not now. Not yet.
We wants it, but not yet, eh? Perhaps not. She might help. She might, yes.
No, no, not that way.
Okay, well, we're going to need some Gollum juice to get recovered from that, but that was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a good idea.
That was, wow. Drink about a gallon of water and, I don't know, half a quart of lemon juice, but
I know, and I forgot my herbal tea tonight.
Seriously.
And
this was like the passage to try to read like this. My goodness.
Yeah, that was fun.
Well, going back to that and actually going back to before the part we read, Sam wakes up because he thinks he hears Frodo, but then he realizes I couldn't have heard Frodo. He's practically in that disgusting ooze at the bottom of the sump here.
Right.
And he's asleep still.
Right. And he saw Gollum was really close to Frodo.
Yeah.
And Sam at first thinks that he might be trying to wake Frodo.
Mm-hmm. Eat, wake, it's the same thing.
You know, whatever. But then he realizes, as we know, and as we just hopefully delivered to you, Gollum is talking to himself.
Indeed he is, yeah.
And we get this amazing description that Tolkien gives us that he's holding a debate with some other thought that used the same voice.
Oh, isn't that a great line?
Yeah, this is the evidence that Tolkien gives us that there's another personality inside Gollum's brain.
Yeah, absolutely. This is also, by the way, we get this description here about Sméagol holding a debate. It's only the 3rd time the narrator actually calls him Sméagol.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're right.
All the other times it's Frodo or Gandalf, for instance, but yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And then we get these alternating pale and green lights in his eyes. Again, we didn't read that part because we couldn't read the whole thing. But this is really interesting that these lights are alternating as he's speaking, going from voice to voice. What do you have on this?
Well, it's funny. I went back to The Hobbit, and if we do that, we see Gollum's eyes primarily described as pale. So that fits with the pale lights, right? 2 big, round, pale eyes, pale lamp-like eyes, and even the light of his eyes burned with a pale flame. But something that I think we missed, and I don't know, it was, 4 years ago, so maybe we did talk about it and I've simply forgotten. When we were discussing Riddles in the Dark, Gollum's eyes changed. When Bilbo persists with "What have you lost?" Well, then we read, but now the light in Gollum's eyes had become a green fire, and it was coming swiftly nearer. And then later on, after Bilbo puts on the ring, he turned now and saw Gollum's eyes like small green lamps coming up the slope.
Right.
And then finally, when Gollum had gotten all the way to the end, right, to the exit of the tunnels, the way out, we read that his eyes gleamed cold in his head, but then Bilbo moved and Gollum sensed him. And we read, Gollum stiffened at once and sniffed, and his eyes went green. So
wow.
What we saw then, and maybe that was retconned. I didn't have time to check my first edition facsimile, but we see that there's a transition between Sméagol and Gollum represented by the color of his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So folks, pay attention going forward, because a green light in Gollum's eyes is a clear sign that evil Gollum is in control.
That is awesome. I am so glad you found that. I kind of thought that's what was going on there because, Tolkien makes it pretty clear that this is the two different personalities, but which one's the good one and which one's the bad one? And you found it, which is great.
Yeah. It was really interesting.
Yeah. That's super cool. And then the debate begins.
Boy, doesn't
this
it?
This is, man, iconic scene.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tolkien. Sméagol and Gollum going back and forth here.
Oh, wow.
And we see not only different voices, which I hope we conveyed in our reading, but also different motivations.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Different personality, different attitudes towards Frodo and Sam. Maybe not Sam so much, but definitely different attitudes towards Frodo.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
So we're going to talk about this a little bit. And we see from the very beginning, Sméagol is bound by his promise.
Yeah.
He is sincere about the promise he made to Frodo.
That's right. Yeah.
Where Gollum is looking for all these loopholes, right?
Always, yeah. Gollum went to law school. He's looking for the way out, man.
Right.
Yeah. We promised to save our precious, by the way. I just want to point that out. Gollum obviously still sees the ring as his own.
Yeah. Yeah. And I noticed that Gollum is he's the first one to mention the precious in this, to use the word precious, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
He kind of leads with it here. And I think
right. We promised to save our precious.
Yeah.
We still possess this, or we still own this. We don't possess it. That's the problem.
Right.
But it's ours.
But it's still ours, even though it's not in our possession right now.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And then Sméagol has to remind himself again, we promised to help the master.
Yeah.
But that language, again, Gollum the lawyer, like you said, that's giving Gollum a lot of room to work here, isn't it?
Boy, isn't it?
The vagueness of who is the master.
We love vague terms and contracts because then they can be interpreted however they like. Yeah. But that's when Sméagol appeals to the kindness of Frodo, right? I mean, not only did he take the rope off, but he speaks nicely to me. And I want to pause
really
there
interesting.
for a second. Yeah.
We do need to pause there because I think in this day and age, you could read that and think, oh, that's cute. That's kind of silly, right? That's like, it's such a little thing, right? Such a petty thing.
It seems like a throwaway thing, right?
It seems like a throwaway thing. Oh, he speaks
polite
nicely to me. Come on. That's right. Exactly. But this is Gollum. Like, people haven't been nice to him for 500 years.
Exactly. Literally centuries since he's heard a kind word.
Yeah.
And, look, I'm not saying he didn't deserve all the things that were said to him, right? I mean, he's done some terrible, terrible things. But
sure, of course. Yeah.
He hasn't had anybody speak a kind word to him probably since he's, killed Deagle. I mean,
that'll do it.
That'll do it. But yeah.
But you're right. And I think the kindness that he gets from Frodo, I think really does touch him. And this is really important. This is really important for him. This could possibly be a sign that he doesn't feel alone for the first time in a long time, because not only does he have someone who's nice to him, but the person who's being nice to him is Frodo, who is the only other person who kind of understands what he feels for the ring.
That's absolutely right.
So that's really cool. And I think we are right to kind of spend some time on he speaks nicely to me, because I do think it's not meant to be the silly throwaway thing.
No.
And Gollum seems to let him have that,
Yeah, you're right. He does, doesn't he?
Okay, sure. He's nice to you. Fine. Then we won't hurt Frodo. Then.
Yeah, not hurt the nice hobbit, of course. No.
Right. And then Sméagol reminds himself that his promise is bound by the ring. The precious holds the promise.
Right.
You remember the object of his swearing. We talked about that a few episodes ago. And again, he's really sincere about this. He takes his oath seriously.
He does. Absolutely. But Gollum once again finds a loophole, right? Yeah. If the precious holds the promise, then we need to hold the precious. And, okay, fine, we're going to be nice to Frodo. Well, let's make the other Hobbit make him crawl, right? I know you
Right.
don't like him, and I really don't like him, so we're going to punish Sam. Yeah.
Right. And then we get more preciouses from Gollum, because he
Of
does kind of
course.
tend to be the one who uses that most of the time, not exclusively, obviously. Gollum seems to be the only one golluming, though, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He is.
He
the
must
only
be,
one
because
golluming.
my throat doesn't hurt right now, and I'm sure yours
And
does.
mine does.
Yeah.
That Gollum sound is hard to make. You're right.
It is.
So now, though, Sméagol seems to be weakening in the argument, right? After Gollum says what he does about punishing Sam, Sméagol doesn't say, well, let's not do that. He just says, but not the nice Hobbit, right?
Right. Right.
Okay, so we're going to hurt Sam, fine, but just reassure me we're not going to hurt Frodo.
But not him, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then Gollum decides to kind of take the argument in a new direction. Like,
he does, doesn't he?
He is a Baggins. And remember, the Bagginses are all thieves.
That's right.
All
every
of
last
them.
one. Mm-hmm.
Every single one. And then Sméagol breaks out the big gun. He's like, yeah, but Sauron will see. If we take the precious, Sauron will see, and he'll know. And he'll take the ring.
Right.
And so here's where we see that Sméagol isn't motivated by any reluctance to hurt Frodo out of a loyalty to Sauron. He's scared. He's afraid.
Yeah. Oh, he's absolutely afraid. Mm-hmm. And, Gollum reminds him, look, don't worry about Sauron finding out. He already knows. He knows you made that promise, by the way.
Yeah.
You idiot. Yeah. You should have made that stupid promise.
Yeah.
And then he suggests that, hey, if we get the ring, though, that would allow us to escape Sauron. We know better now than to walk on the battle plane of Daggerlad and get caught by the orcs, and to grow strong, right?
Yeah.
Go hit the gym 5 times a week, man.
And eat healthy, right?
That's right. Get that fish
protein. You got to
protein.
eat healthy. Eat fresh fish from the sea. Fish fresh from the sea.
Yeah. Well, or fresh fish from the sea, however you want to put it.
Fresh fish fresh from the sea.
Yeah. Every day.
Every
3
single
times
day.
a day, right?
Yeah, 3 times a day.
Yeah.
And I love this because this is that temptation moment. We get
Isn't
this with so many characters when they encounter the ring. Here's where we see
That's
Gollum
right.
described. This is his temptation. This is like his island that he would go live on if he had the ring. He would be just like hanging out, eating fish from the sea, probably be killing some people.
This is Sam's greatest gardener in the world moment, right? This is
exactly.
Lord Sméagol, Gollum the Great, the Gollum, most precious Gollum. Yeah.
That's right. And you see how the ring tempts each one according to whatever their own desires were. Yeah. Sam is a gardener at heart. He dreams of being the greatest gardener that ever lived.
Right.
Gollum has been reduced to just, this poor creature who just eats raw fish that he catches himself. And so that's what he fantasizes about when he thinks about having the ring.
That's absolutely right.
And I noticed that Gollum names himself 3 times in this paragraph. He says, Lord Sméagol, but then he says, Gollum the Great, the Gollum, most precious Gollum.
Yeah, I think we know where his priorities lie.
I think we know his priorities are with himself.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Sméagol, though, he doesn't say yes or no to this. He doesn't agree or disagree with the theory that we could escape and grow strong and have a lot of fish. Instead, he points out the risk. He's very risk averse here. There are 2 of them, and they'll kill us. So let's not do this yet. And this is another slip down the path for Sméagol, isn't it? He's falling into whatever it is that Gollum wants him to do. First it was, well, not this one, right? I mean, we'll hurt the other one, but not this one. And now it's not now, not yet.
Okay, we'll do it, but not now. We'll hurt them both, but not now.
Yeah, because he's clearly bought into the plan now.
He has, yeah. And then Gollum hatches a new plan. Okay, well, maybe she can help.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Sméagol's not so nuts about that one, is he?
No, he's a bit scared of that one.
Yeah.
Kind of scared of everything, honestly.
He is. Yeah. He's a little afraid. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we're told that during the debate, so this is after the part that we read.
Right.
We're told that during the debate, Gollum's hand would periodically go towards Frodo whenever he was speaking. And then whenever Sméagol spoke, his hand is withdrawn. So
that's right.
That's the physical representation of what's going on, with Gollum wanting to hurt Frodo and Sméagol not. But now
the threat to Frodo, yeah. But now both arms are moving towards his neck, and that is when things have to be done, right? But That suggests to me, by the way, I think possibly that Sméagol is so afraid of she that now he's willing to maybe join Gollum in this plan to kill Frodo now rather than go that way.
He's afraid of she, and I don't think he's afraid of reading an H. Rider Haggard book.
I don't think so either.
Sorry. That is a joke that only people who listen to this podcast, I think, are going to get, or who have read Douglas Anderson.
Fortunately, the people listening to this episode are usually people who've listened to this podcast.
I know, but it's still, it's like you could not use that joke anywhere else. So
no, that's true.
I can't say I've given you that great joke, folks, because A, it wasn't a great joke, and B, you can't use it for anybody else. But you're right. Sméagol does seem afraid of she, because, I mean, honestly, he seems like he's afraid of a lot of things. He seems motivated primarily by fear in this whole exchange. I mean, it's certainly fear that makes him hold out so long against the idea of wanting to hurt Frodo, more so than any real loyalty to Frodo. It seems like it really is fear that's holding him back.
Yeah, I think the loyalty to Frodo is sort of the initial hurdle, and that's overcome pretty quickly, and it's fear after that.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm going to have you pick up when Sam's deciding to do something about this, okay? So
All right.
kind of most of the way through this paragraph and then continue from there.
To his simple mind, ordinary hunger, the desire to eat hobbits, had seemed the chief danger in Gollum. He realized now that it was not so. Gollum was feeling the terrible call of the ring. The Dark Lord was he, of course, but Sam wondered who she was. One of the nasty friends the little wretch had made in his wanderings, he supposed. Then he forgot the point, for things had plainly gone far enough and were getting dangerous. A great heaviness was in all his limbs, but he roused himself with an effort and sat up. Something warned him to be careful and not to reveal that he had overheard the debate. He let out a loud sigh and gave a huge yawn. "What's the time?" he said sleepily. Gollum sent out a long hiss through his teeth. He stood up for a moment, tense and menacing, and then he collapsed, falling forward onto all fours and crawling up the bank of the pit.
Nice hobbits, nice Sam,
he said.
Sleepyheads, yes, sleepyheads. Leave good Sméagol to watch. But it's evening. Dusk is creeping. Time to go.
High time, thought Sam. And time we parted, too. Yet it crossed his mind to wonder if indeed Gollum was not now as dangerous turned loose as kept with them. Curse him. I wish he was choked, he muttered. He stumbled down the bank and roused his master.
Well, Sam's had enough, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's the two hands thing where he's like, oh, he's actually going to do something now.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the part before you started picking up, he's been watching every bit of this debate while lying still.
Yeah.
But now he's realizing that his biggest fear, which was that hunger would overcome him and that Gollum would eat them, that's nothing. The problem is that Gollum's feeling the draw of the ring.
Right. And while Sam clearly knows that he is Sauron, he's got no idea who she is.
Oh, no. And neither does the reader at this point, of course.
True. That's true. So Sam gets up, but acting smarter than the narrator seems to want to give him credit for. You know, the narrator talks about Sam's
right.
simple
this is a
mind.
rather shrewd move, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and then Sam does something very shrewd, just pretends he's waking up, didn't see anything, yawning, sighing, hey, what time is it?
Yeah, that's far better than, hey, what do you think you're doing?
Right. What are you talking about? Who's she? What do you
Gollum finishes choking Frodo and then kills Sam, right? It's all over.
Oops, we're caught.
Yep.
Time to kill everyone.
That's right. It's,
That's not a good ending.
No, it is not a good ending. Fortunately, he does the smart thing, and it ends up causing Gollum to stop and hiss and sort of revert to his old ways. And he pulls out that nice Sam, which of course is so dripping with sarcasm. Yeah.
Yeah. And Sméagol says it's dusk and time to go.
Right.
Sam has some thoughts about Gollum.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Yeah.
Time to go indeed, and time we part ways.
Yeah, but then he wonders, wait a minute, maybe not. I mean, wouldn't Gollum be more dangerous away from us than with us right now? And he's not wrong.
And he's not wrong. I mean,
no.
As long as Gollum is with them, they have eyes on him.
They at least have some control, right? Yeah.
Somewhat.
And they have knowledge, at least. They know where he is and what he's up to.
Exactly. They can see him. They can keep him in front of them, if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely.
They let him go. Suddenly, all he has to do is go hide somewhere, wait for them to pass, and he can sneak up behind him and do what he wants.
Or go talk to the orcs or Sauron. I mean, for all they know. For all Sam knows, certainly.
Whoever she is.
Oh, boy. Tell me we're not going to find out who she is, right? We're never going to find out, right?
We'll find out someday.
Oh,
I
okay.
think. Yeah,
All right,
I think.
maybe.
Tolkien wouldn't just leave that there and not.
No?
I don't know. Maybe this is a textual ruin. Maybe we'll never find out.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Maybe she is one of the cats of Queen Beruthiel.
Maybe. I like that.
All right. Well, Sam now mutters his primary thought. He actually says this out loud. Not loudly, but he says it. Curse him. Wish he was choked. It's like, does he kind of want Gollum to hear him? I kind of think maybe he does.
Yeah, there's a little passive aggressiveness here, I think.
I think so.
Mhm.
And then he goes to wake up Frodo.
Right.
And that is where you are going to pick up.
That is exactly where I'm going to pick up. Just a short reading here. Strangely enough, Frodo felt refreshed. He had been dreaming. The dark shadow had passed, and a fair vision had visited him in this land of disease. Nothing remained of it in his memory, yet because of it, he felt glad and lighter of heart. His burden was less heavy on him. Gollum welcomed him with dog-like delight. He chuckled and chattered, cracking his long fingers and pawing at Frodo's knees. Frodo smiled at him. "Come," he said. "You have guided us well and faithfully. This is the last stage. Bring us to the gate, and then I will not ask you to go further. Bring us to the gate, and you may go where you wish, only not to our enemies." All right.
Obviously, he has not conferred with Sam, who is of the let's keep him close to us mind. But
Exactly. So Frodo wakes feeling unexpectedly refreshed after this good dream, right? The darkness passes and a fair vision visits him.
yeah, and while he can't remember the details, he knows how he feels. He feels gladder. He feels like his burden is less.
I want us to speculate a little bit. Could this maybe have been Lorien? Irmo? I don't know. I mean, that's a stretch, right? Why would the Valar be involved here in any way? But
I mean, I think by nature of the fact that that's what Lorien does, right? He sends visions.
Sends visions and dreams.
I think that probably is him. I guess the question is, why? Because he, maybe Frodo needs something. I mean, this is a way for the Valar to get involved without getting directly involved.
Yeah, maybe.
I wouldn't put that past them. I think that's in keeping with kind of the mythical environment we're in. And there's definitely some recovery and escape and consolation here.
Oh, definitely.
He's kind of had this moment. And he's just feeling refreshed, and it's what he needs right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got Gollum acting like a dog again. This is really
right.
cool. We've seen this a few times now.
How many dog references have we had, right?
I know, right? There's been a few. This chapter,
I think we get at least one more. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it this chapter or was it the previous chapter that we
Both.
last saw this? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's chuckling and he's pawing while Frodo's smiling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Hobbit's best friend.
So Frodo speaks kindly to him again. Good boy. Who's that good boy?
Who's that good boy?
Now he credits Gollum or Sméagol, I should say, for leading them well and faithfully. So, in conjunction with his promise. And he instructs him, look, go ahead and get us to the gates, and then you're done. We will release you. You can go anywhere you want.
You can go anywhere you want,
Almost.
Just not to Sauron and the orcs.
Well, yeah. Not that he necessarily would want to.
No, I can't imagine he would want to. He's obviously scared of Sauron.
Yeah.
He knows that the orcs are going to take him to Sauron. He probably doesn't want to be tortured again.
No, probably not.
And then in the next bit, after what you read, when Gollum hears Frodo wants to go to the gate, he's surprised and frightened, or at least it seems that way. Seeming surprised and frightened.
Right.
But he agrees to do what he's told.
That's right.
Good Sméagol does what he asks.
Mm-hmm. But he implies that Frodo may change his mind when he sees the gate.
I think this is sort of passive-aggressive, frankly.
Oh, yeah. When we get closer, we'll see.
Sure.
We'll see then.
I'll take you, but
I'll
when we
take you
get
there.
Well, you'll see. You're not going to.
It's not quite the dripping with sarcasm. Like, sure, you want to get to Sauron a little faster. Just hang out over there on the battle plane, and
that's true. That is Gollum at his most sarcastic.
Yeah, I love that. But no, this is not that. This is a little more subtle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sam, notably not speaking kindly, unlike Frodo, basically tells him to get a move on. I love it.
Yeah. Go on with you. Let's
go on with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have you pick up, basically read the rest of the chapter for us, if you would.
I can do that. They had not gone far before they felt once more the fear that had fallen on them when the winged shape swept over the marshes. They halted, cowering on the evil-smelling ground, but they saw nothing in the gloomy evening sky above, and soon the menace passed, high overhead, going maybe on some swift errand from Barad-dûr. After a while, Gollum got up and crept forward again, muttering and shaking. About an hour after midnight, the fear fell on them a third time, but it now seemed more remote, as if it were passing far above the clouds, rushing with terrible speed into the west. Gollum, however, was helpless with terror, and was convinced that they were being hunted, that their approach was known.
3 times,
He whimpered.
3 times is a threat. They feel us here. They fear the precious. The precious is their master. We cannot go any further this way. No, it's no use. No use!
Pleading and kind words were no longer of any avail. It was not until Frodo commanded him angrily and laid a hand on his sword hilt that Gollum would get up again. Then at last he rose with a snarl and went before them like a beaten dog. So they stumbled on through the weary end of the night, and until the coming of another day of fear they walked in silence with bowed heads, seeing nothing and hearing nothing but the wind hissing in their ears.
And so passes the passage of the Marshes. But let's go back to the beginning of the section you read. The falling dusk is that of March 4th, right? We've been on this day since they came out of the no-man lands and into this desolation. So at this very time, the Ents are watching over the remnants of Isengard, while Theoden and Gandalf and the rest have been making their way towards Isengard. They'll get there tomorrow afternoon.
That's right. So they crawl out of the pit, and they don't get very far before they feel the same fear that they felt at midnight a few nights back. And that would have been the night of March 1st into March 2nd.
Right, because it arrived precisely at midnight, so don't know what you want to call that. And it arrived
precisely when it means to.
That's right, a Nazgul is never late.
So they stop and they cower, but they can't see anything in the sky, and then we're told that the menace passed. But several hours later, after midnight, so this would now be March 5th, there's another one, but it's more remote. And the text says it's rushing with terrible speed.
That's right. Now Gollum believes they've been spotted and they're being hunted, and he goes off on this 3 times thing, right? He's claiming 3 times is a threat. We cannot keep going. We have to stop. We can't go this direction.
Mm-hmm. And he's so terrified that at this point, even speaking kindly to him isn't helping.
No, not at all.
So Frodo does what any parent does when asking your kid to do something and asking them kindly doesn't work.
Commands him angrily?
He commands him angrily.
That's right. Oh, man, that's great. Yeah.
Though I have never put a hand on my sword hilt.
No,
when
that's
I do
true.
That.
To be fair, I have never laid a hand on my sword hilt when
no.
having to lay into the kids. Yeah.
No.
Command them angrily. You're right. You keep asking them kindly, and they just don't do it. Finally, you got to command them angrily. It's true.
Do it, or I shall command you angrily. That's what I'm going to say from now on. I'm just going to threaten to command you angrily and see if that gets the result.
I love it. But then, of course, he rose to the snarl, and we get the other dog reference, by the way.
Right.
Yeah. So Tom Shippey in The Road to Middle-earth says of Gollum's being convinced that they're being hunted. What he says sounds plausible enough, but it's wrong. 3 times is a coincidence, and actually, we can guess each time what the Nazgul are doing. And we read actually this last season. The first was coming back from a fruitless wait for Grishnak the orc, dead and burnt that same day, with the smoke from his burning seen by many watchful eyes. We've read that passage a few times, but now we move on, and Shippey says the second was probing towards Rohan and Saruman. The third was heading for Isengard, to alarm Pippin on its way with the thought that it had somehow been dispatched for him.
Now, those sound like good guesses.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I'm a little bit confused because Christopher Tolkien in The War of the Ring, which we discussed last week, points out that because of changes Tolkien made in the timeline, neither of the unseen Nazgul that passed over high up at the end of the chapter, the passage of the Marshes, that's here, at dusk on March 4th and again an hour after midnight, can have been the one that wheeled over Dol Baran on the night of March 5th, nor the one that passed over Edoras on the morning of March 6th. A rigorous chronology led to this disappointing conclusion.
That's right. Now, of course, the last one rushing with terrible speed into the west was almost certainly the one sent in response to Pippin's looking into the Palantir. Shippey's clearly right about that one, I think.
That makes sense.
We don't hear more detail on that particular arrival at Isengard International Airport, but he can't have been happy. So don't want to be Saruman in that particular situation.
No.
The first one, I think he's right? That could be the one who'd been sent to visit Grishnak, but I don't know, because the text last week says that Nazgul scudded across the moon with a deadly cry, went away westward, which would be towards Grishnak and not back from him. But then he wheeled and turned back immediately. So I'm not sure that that's the case. Maybe, though. Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have to trust Christopher's chronology on this.
That's the thing. I mean, I like Shippy's guesses, but I think what we learn in History of Middle-earth suggests they may not necessarily be correct guesses, but
yeah,
I like them anyway.
I like them anyway. They're cool. I mean, there's a nice cohesion to it.
There really is, yeah.
And I think Christopher knows that too.
Yeah, I mean, Christopher points out in the timeline that, yeah, these were supposed to be those, but because he added extra days in the journey, they couldn't be.
Right.
So,
and that's why he calls it a disappointing conclusion.
Disappointing conclusion.
We want
rigorous
them to be the three Nazgul. Yeah,
I know. I love that. Well, I do like the end of that chapter, right? Stumbling on through the weary end of the night. I mean, that's like that 4 a.m. thing.
Yeah,
it's the hour of the wolf, as Ivanova would call it.
As Ivanova would say, yeah. I felt that way before. Not for a while. Not since kids.
No, not since you've been blackout drunk, right?
Oh, man, how many episodes is that in a row? We need to let
as many as I can is the answer to that one. Well, speaking of stumbling on through the weary end of the night, do we have anything from Barliman tonight?
Well, at least Barliman managed to get into the mailbag and bring us a message from our old friend Jeff L. in New York, who asked about the Nazgul's flying beasts. He says, "We're given that awesome description of them and where they came from. The delightful nursed it with fell meats bit, and the wonderfully noncommittal creature of an older world, maybe it was. Anyway, my question is there any hint that they've ridden upon these before? Or is it that, being unhorsed, they now take to the skies? Do you think it's plausible they had such beasts at the end of the Second Age, too? Granted, the creatures could easily have been bred at any point by Sauron, so there's no reason they haven't had them, but do you know if there's any clue in the text that they have been seen before? Or could it be when they saddle up in the War of the Ring, it's the first time?" Jeff goes on to say they seem like they were a long-term project, though.
Yeah.
My memory is probably also obscured by the films. Neither Gollum nor the Rangers in Osgiliath seem surprised about Nazgul in the air, just dismayed by Nazgul, period. But obviously those moments are quite different in the film anyway.
That's true. Now, when we encountered the Nazgul last week, we weren't given much of a description at all, right? We were a black shadow loosed from Mordor, a vast shape, winged and ominous, is about it.
Yeah.
And the two other times in this episode here at the end of the chapter, even less, right? We get the travelers sensing the flying Nazgul overhead. They don't even see them. And last season, when we first saw one, a vast winged shape was the description then. So we don't get that amazing description that Jeff gave us until we get to the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, of course. But all of that, though, doesn't answer the question one bit. Shawn,
no, it doesn't. Not at all. Nope.
That's my technique, man. That's my shtick.
You just do that just to stall for time, and then you give the question back to me.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jeff's almost certainly right about the Wingmouts being a long-term project. I mean, Sauron didn't just pop down to the local animal shelter and ask to adopt 9 stray winged fell beasts. We don't get a definitive explanation of their origin, of course, because where's the fun in that? But in the quote from the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, we get at least a hint.
Yeah.
A creature of an older world, maybe it was, whose kind, lingering in forgotten mountains cold beneath the moon, outstayed their day. And in hideous Aerie bred this last untimely brood, apt to evil. And the Dark Lord took it, and nursed it with fell meats, until it grew beyond the measure of all other things that fly, and he gave it to his servant to be his steed. So, some ancient evil lingering in the mountains since the First Age, maybe?
That would be my thinking. Of an older world certainly suggests that. Combine that with the fact that it's apt to evil, I can't help but think that these might have been some of Morgoth's creatures gone native in a way. Sauron finds them in a timely manner and bred at least 9 of them to serve as winged steeds for the Nazgul. But look, the thing is we just don't have anything conclusive one way or the other. While that text suggests they've been around at least long enough to have been the result of a breeding program, there's one passage that, to me at least, suggests no one outside of Mordor knew about it at least. When Gandalf's talking to Frodo in Rivendell, when he's healing up before the council, Frodo asks if the Black Riders were destroyed when the flood washed them away. Gandalf says, "No, their horses must have perished, and without them they are crippled." He doesn't say, "The horses are dead, but that just means they'll be back on terrifying winged monstrosities," which frankly leads me to believe that Gandalf assumes they don't have other mounts. And honestly, if Gandalf doesn't know, ain't nobody knows.
I mean, it would have been good information to share at the time.
Yes, it would have been. Would have been very helpful, right?
Yeah. And when Legolas shoots down one of the winged mounts across the Anduin, he says, but who can say what it hit?
Right, he doesn't know.
And we see he doesn't know what it is. Gimli doesn't know what it is. Boromir doesn't. Aragorn doesn't. Frodo thinks he knows, but it has nothing to do with the mount. It's not like, I've seen a mount like that before. He knows what he feels.
Right.
But I think the reason no one knows about these beasts is something that goes back to what we read in The Hunt for the Ring, and that's Sauron's need for secrecy in the hunt.
Yes, absolutely.
Flying around on these terrifying winged steeds is a great way to scare everyone, and it's super cool if you're, posing for a heavy metal album cover, but it's not an effective intelligence gathering tool.
No, it isn't. You're right.
And it's certainly not discreet. Now remember, Sauron didn't know where the Shire was, so he had the Nazgul going around trying to find it. They had to lay low, and flying Nazgul are not subtle.
No, not at all, not in the least.
And even when we do learn that they're a winged Nazgul, we discover that Sauron won't let them over the Anduin. No. Grishnak says that Sauron won't let them show themselves across the Great River yet, not too soon. Therefore the war and other purposes. Now, as for whether Sauron had them at the end of the Second Age, we just have to come back to the fact that there's no evidence.
Yeah, not only is there no evidence, there's sort of well, I'm arguing for a no with the lack of evidence, but here's the thing. If Elrond had seen flying Nazgul at the Battle of Dagorlad and the Siege of Barad-dûr, you'd think he'd remember and, say something at the council. So
you'd think,
he was there 3,000 years ago, Gandalf.
That's right.
So I don't think there were flying Nazgul at the end of the Second Age. I just don't think so.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I mean, it's, we say this sometimes, it's hard to prove a negative, but there's no evidence to suggest that they were seen before.
Yeah, and I recognize I'm arguing from absence of evidence there, but it's all we have. It's an absence of evidence. Yeah,
it is.
So,
all right. Well, Alan, do we have time for one more?
I think so. Gijs R. in the Netherlands, and I really tried on the name, so please forgive me if I got it wrong, asks a pleasant one. My favorite sound is the sound of incomprehensible murmur in the background, such as may be heard in a pub or inn. Unsurprisingly, listening to your podcast has thus helped me relax many a time on the bike, on the bus, and sometimes even in bed, helping me fall asleep. Absolutely no offense intended. Don't worry, Gijs, none taken. But please don't fall asleep on your bike. He goes on to ask, now I wondered what sound would you guys most like to hear from Middle-earth to help you relax, and perhaps which sound in our world helps you do so. Shawn, I'm going to let you go first.
Alan, you didn't read the word, the cool Dutch word
for
that incomprehensible murmur.
No, because I knew I was already having a hard time with his name.
All right. Well, I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll try it. Why not?
Go for it.
Because, I thought I might end up being the one to actually read the question from Gijs. Yeah. So I reached out to our patron, Erwin in the Netherlands, for help pronouncing a very precise Dutch word that Gijs used in his email for that incomprehensible murmur. And I would say I can't believe I'm doing this, but actually I can believe I'm doing this.
Of course I can believe you did this.
232 episodes. Jeruzamus. How did I do, Erwin? Let me know how I did.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, Erwin, for your help with pronouncing that word, which I would have never been able to get on my own.
No.
So to answer Gijs's question, I'm a big fan of water sounds. So, when I put on white noise to go to sleep or focus for work, it's always something water. It's heavy rain or river sounds, waterfalls, that kind of stuff. I have one long track of rain sounds that I always put on to get my work done, like writing up notes for the podcast. And then I've got a playlist of rain sounds and wave sounds that my wife and I put on when we're going to sleep. So
wow.
If I could pick the perfect Jeruzamus,
show off.
Relax. It would probably be maybe like something like the Falls of Rauros. As long as I'm not upstream of them, that would not be very relaxing.
Fair.
Maybe the River Bruinen. Bruinen actually means loud water. So there's probably a really nice sound there. If I had the sounds of the Bruinen to keep me company, I might not need a fancy sound system in my Ford.
Oh, the Ford of Bruinen. Yeah,
I'll be here
well
all day.
Played, sir. Well played. I'd say I don't know why I let you go first on these, Shawn, except maybe to pronounce those words that I really lack the courage to try, because it seems like you're always taking the answer that I'd have said. Water sounds do it for me as well. Maybe not when I'm working, as I have to have something a little more upbeat than that. I'll fall asleep to it. I often have my digital assistant, she who must not be named, play the sounds of rain or light rain at night on a sleep timer to help me drift off. And I had the good fortune of going to college near the coast. My freshman year as an 18-year-old, I'm in a dorm that's so close to the water I could fall asleep to the sound of crashing waves.
Oh, now who's showing off?
I loved it. Loved it so much I did my freshman year twice. So yeah, water in some form. Perhaps I'd choose the sound of the waves lapping the shore at the Grey Havens. I think that's what I'd go with.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
I like it.
Would be nice. Well, folks, that does wrap it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Please, though, be sure to join us again next week when we're joined by a few friends and some folks out to embarrass us in our next Questions After Nightfall.
Oh, yeah. Those are always fun.
Always.
And we get the most unexpected questions. So folks are not going to want to miss that. And now, folks, we want to take a moment to thank the team that helps make this show better. That's our research assistants, including Marilyn R. Pakila, our Barliman, Becca Davis, producer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
And speaking of the website, please be sure to give us a visit there at theprancingponypodcast.com. We've got show notes, hilarious outtakes, Prancing Pony ponderings, and our online storefront where you can get all sorts of PPP merch.
And definitely check out our library page. You know we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we've provided links for you to get nearly every book we mention on the show. And we do get a few pennies from the purchases you make there, so thank you.
Now, we also want to thank some more really important people. Those would be our patrons at the Kierdance contribution tier. I'm going to start with DeMay in Alaska, James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, B in California, Joseph in Texas, and Kathy from North Carolina.
And then we have Lori from Washington, Carlos in California, Brian from the UK, Ned from Connecticut, Jerry from Washington, Ryan from Alaska, Joe in Washington, Erwin from the Netherlands, Hal from Washington, D.C., June in Ireland, Lucas in Germany, and Damien in Pennsylvania. Thank you all so very much for your support. And also, folks, please be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcast app is.
And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and, well, most of all, your tips for debating yourself to Barliman at theprancingponypodcast.com. And if you want a chance to have your actual voice heard, you can send us audio of you asking your question by visiting podinbox.com/prancingponypod and record your question for us.
Just make sure to still send the question to Barliman if you could, please. Now, Barliman's a lot more reliable lately, but we do get a lot of mail, so we'll get to you as soon as we can, and your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
As always, though, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time,
farewell, friends.